Shouts out to the YouTube world community, the YouTube boxing world community. Um, respect, respect. And I want to say this: if you clicked on this video, you see the title is Errol Spence versus Danny Garcia prediction from rounds 1 through 12. But first thing, first and foremost, and the first thing I want to make absolutely clear is respect, respect, respect both fighters, supporters, fans, both fighters' hometown territories, and respect due to anybody and everybody involved in making this event available and getting it across the finish line to see what I believe is going to be this year's greatest boxing event that we will bear witness to. But I'm going to, get right down to how I see this fight unfolding. Errol, the Truth, Spence versus Danny Swift Garcia. No matter what anybody says, there's going to be rust. I think more rust is going to be accumulated on Errol Spence, but there's going to be rust on Danny Garcia as well. First round is going to be a fill-out round. Second round also is going to be a fill-out round. It's going to be a chess match. From rounds 3, 4, and partially the majority of 5, I think the fight will start to turn into a little bit of a dogfight. Both men are going to be trying to gain dominance, dictate the pace, and establish ring generalship. From rounds 3, 4, and 5, I believe most likely Danny Garcia will be able to accomplish those things at a more visual pace. We're going to see Danny Garcia landing some powerful shots. And that's what the boxing world has a big question about: the punch resistance of Errol Spence, and what is going to be his physical and mental reaction once he gets hit by Danny Garcia's left hook. I believe he's going to land that left hook, and we might see Errol Spence from round 3, round 4, round 5 be in some, hot water, making the adjustments, getting adapted to the power, knocking off the rust. After that, I see Errol Spence leveling up, composing himself, leveling up, switching into another gear. Once I see Errol Spence switch into another gear, I think it's going to play similar to Mayweather versus Shane Mosley. I believe that Danny Garcia and Angel Garcia are mainly focused on training for power, and they hope to be able to take advantage of any loss of punch resistance from the car accident with Errol Spence. They're hoping that they can make and take full advantage in the first 6 to 7 rounds. But what I think is going to happen when Errol Spence makes that adjustment, ending in round 5, starting in round 6, I think he's going to start to slowly take over the fight rounds 5, 6, and 7, evening out the fight. Danny Garcia, his punches are going to be more complacent with just trying to land counter punches with power, with less and less success as the fight progresses. I think when you go into the 8th and 9th round is where you're going to see all the hard work start to reveal itself from Errol Spence. I think Danny Garcia is going to start to slow down just enough, and Errol Spence is going to be able to start to pick his shots and start to put in some work, onslaught attack on Danny Garcia's midsection, putting a lot of water in the basement. Now, when I go back to the first 5 rounds, I think it's still going to be a nice battle and going to be very close. I just think Danny Garcia is going to be able to edge out a few of those first early rounds. But Errol Spence is still going to be putting in some accumulative work that'll pay off in the championship rounds. So once we go into round 8, round 9, it's going to be a pretty close fight. Both men are going to have some damage, but both men are still going to have energy left. I feel like Errol Spence is going to be able to kick it in to another level. Once Danny Garcia levels up, I think he's going to hit more of his ceiling, his limit of how fast he can go, how hard he can punch, how much, reflexes. I think he's going to start to be complacent and just waiting and trying to punch with Errol Spence. Going into round 9, 10, that's when I feel like Angel Garcia is going to try to change the game plan for Danny Garcia. He's going to say, the fight is too close. I think you're winning, but there's no way you're going to be able to win fighting in front of his home crowd. So I want to see more. I want to see a powerful shot. I want to see you go in there and go for the gusto. I think once Danny Garcia has it in his mind that he's fallen behind on the scorecards, he's going to try and level up. And once he levels up, it's going to be more out of desperation, not out of the planned tactic going into the fight. Now, I know I said that Danny Garcia is training more for power. And I know Angel Garcia said, look, the art of war, we only show you what we want you to see. So, and Danny Garcia comes in shape to fight a 12-round fight. But I think Danny Garcia, in the welterweight division, against Sean Porter, against Keith Thurman, and against even Lamont Peterson, I think his best work was in the first half of the fight. And in the second half of the fight, he was outworked. Errol Spence going into the 11th round with Danny Garcia, I think he's going to have Danny Garcia in trouble. I think Danny Garcia is going to go for a big shot, but he's going to be broken down from body shots. And I think he's going to be somewhat going on empty as far as his energy. I think in the 11th round, there's a possibility that we can see Danny Garcia possibly take a knee to regather himself. I feel like Danny Garcia has never really been hurt and knocked down in the fight. So it's hard for me to call a knockout from Errol Spence. Also, keep in mind, if Errol Spence's integrity has not been compromised, it's hard for me to see a knockout for Danny Swift Garcia. I know he has power, but one thing that strikes my attention is before the accident, Danny Garcia was planning on fighting Errol Spence. Once Errol Spence had the accident, Danny Garcia continued with his warpath and fought Ivan Redkach. So the version we saw of Danny Garcia was close to the version that was going to be brought to the battle against Errol Spence. And he did not knock out Ivan Redkach. I don't even think he put Ivan Redkach on the canvas. So anything is possible in boxing. That's why we love the sport. Either man can be knocked out. There's 1,000 different scenarios. I'm just focused on the one I see most likely from my humble opinion in a short little video. So I see both fighters going into the 12th round, pushing in all the chips. I feel like Errol Spence will have an advantage in his genetics give him a better, he has a better cardio system, in my opinion. And I think he's going to be able to outwork and outmaneuver Danny Garcia in the 12th round. It would be something similar to a dogfight, but I feel like he's going to get the best of Danny Garcia. So I look at it as 11th round, a possible knockdown for Danny Garcia. I'm going to reiterate. By the 11th round, Errol Spence knocks down Danny Garcia, or by the 11th round, Danny Garcia has to take a knee to regain his third win, stands up like a champion, and finishes strong. I see the 12th round being a bang-out round for both fighters, and I don't see a knockout. Not to say that it can't happen. It's possible that a knockout can happen for both fighters, but if I had to choose, I would choose a knockout for Errol Spence, knocking out Danny Garcia, just by, the investment to the body and then making clean punches. Both guys look like they are hitting hard, but in my opinion, Errol Spence looks to consistently land power punches. Danny Garcia hits harder, but his punches come less and less and less. He might hit you with one big shot that'll register, a 10, but Errol Spence will hit you with 3 shots that'll register on the 8. You know what I'm saying? And those punches add up. So at the end of the fight, I see Errol Spence being victorious. I'm not going to go as far as to say by unanimous or split or majority, details. I feel like at the end of the day, Errol Spence is going to get the victory. And I want to say this. Salute to both fighters. I wish both fighters to have their health, their wealth, make it home to their family safe, and let the best man win. Good, clean fight, no controversy. If it's obvious and evident that both men came into that ring 100%, the winner gets 100% full credit from me for a victory. If one of those men come into the ring and it's obvious that they're not ready and they lose, then I will say the best man won that night. The other guy didn't bring his 100%. And that goes for Errol Spence coming back from an accident. If you say it's obvious from the accident that Errol Spence is just not Errol Spence, I will have to say that. Danny Garcia gets full credit for the fight, but it's obvious that, we're not going to see Errol Spence at the highest level again. That's just something that you have to admit if it's right in front of your eyes. And at the same time, Danny Garcia and Angel Garcia, I've seen a kind of a disconnect in communication sometimes because Danny Garcia coming up short in his fight against Sean Porter and Keith Thurman, I've heard him say, I just didn't do enough. I just didn't do the extra. I didn't go the extra mile. And then Angel Garcia said, yeah, we lost those 2 close fights, but you know, it's boxing politics. I think that Angel Garcia was settling down in his wealth and going off into different ventures, and he somewhat got complacent in his career, and he came up short in his 2 biggest fights. If he comes into this fight and he looks like he is going to come up short based off of not just being 100% Danny Garcia, if Errol Spence wins, I will say Errol Spence won that fight. It's great to see him come back from an accident and win a fight against Danny Garcia, but that wasn't the best Danny Garcia. Danny Garcia is just slightly one foot in the boxing and 1 foot in the retirement, and Errol Spence, you know what I'm saying, did the honors of making him fully retire. That's how I look at it. You get full credit, but you still have to base credit based off the credibility of your opposition. It's Nocturnal Thoughts. Salute. I'm out.